Coming up on ParaTruth Reborn, we've got Jiulio Consiglio to talk about his book, Your Highest Vibration, Realize Your Full Potential Through Chakra Work and Meditation.
Welcome to ParaTruth.
How's it going, ParaTruthers? Welcome to another episode of ParaTruth Reborn. I am super stoked to have our guest on today to talk about chakra work and meditation. It's been a very long time, if ever, that we've had somebody on to talk about chakras. Jiulio, welcome to ParaTruth Reborn.
Justin, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, before we talk about the book, what first led you down the path of energy work and consciousness exploration?
Sure. So between the ages of 19 and 33, I experienced some pretty profound and intense anxiety and the depression that comes with it. So despite trying the conventional route that seemed to fail, I went on to experience other wake-up calls, had an older brother pass away with cancer, a failed marriage, and then my own health scare. So in the fall of 2005, I was coming to a point where I've had my fill of personal suffering. And so I'd been staring at a book for a little while, and I finally purchased it by Dr. Daniel, Amen, of all names, Amen. I didn't get past page 60 or 62. And there was a phrase that went along the lines, when you allow negative thoughts to go unchallenged. Well, that struck me. On this particular day, I was working at the dental office. I had a patient cancel, and the book was actually on the passenger seat of my car. So I did what I normally do, get in the car, drive a few blocks and decompress. And the moment I began to reflect on that phrase, not a male or female voice came audibly up through my chest and said, challenge your thoughts. And in that instant, I experienced a third eye activation. I remember turning my head and just experiencing profound clarity. I still had a patient to get back to. I finished the patient. I have this activated force that is shutting down the negativity that I've been bombarded with for so many years. So I finished the patient. I'm driving home, and this activated force, the third eye, is still going off. I get home, and coming into what I feel like is a state of surrender and emotionally spent, I just say, just let me die. And in that instant, as I lay on the couch, I popped out. And what I mean is my life force left. And when I came back, I knew what had happened. And within weeks, I began experiencing automatic writing. About a month, held my first talk on inner stillness and enlightenment. And just before Christmas, ended up writing my first book, Challenge Your Thoughts. And so it was suffering that led me to where I am today, and it turned out to be a blessing.
Okay. Now, what made you write this book?
This book, looking at what humanity is going through right now and the challenges, we're undergoing a collective shift in consciousness. I felt it was important to offer something, a sort of a guide to have some understanding what's happening and to understand ourselves on a deeper level. There's so much more to us. Chakras are one of them. The third eye in particular, really getting acquainted with that one can really change one's life, because I often say awareness is everything, and it's awareness that brings life to things. So having an awareness of the chakras, an awareness of the soul is what can give life to it.
Now, the title is Your Highest Vibration. When you say highest vibration, what does that actually mean in terms people can understand?
That's a great question. So your highest vibration is inner stillness reflected. So it's a mind that has transcended the thinking mind, or as some people describe it as the negative thinker or the ego, and what remains is pure consciousness or stillness. So it's not so much that we have to really do anything, but rather let go of everything, the limitations, the things that are keeping us stuck, or the things that we identify with that are actually lowering our vibrational frequency. So in that surrendered state, you allow the highest self now expressed through you, and it's experienced as inner stillness, but it's so much more than that. It's inner peace, clarity, wisdom, understanding, inner strength, and psychic abilities are allowed to express, including discernment.
Okay, so for those that aren't necessarily uh, familiar with the chakras, can you walk us through what each chakra is and what it does?
Absolutely. So I'll just give a brief overview, including what we are. So we're a mind, body, spirit. So the physical body is what we use to navigate this world, but the soul is connected to or married to the subtle body, and that's what sort of animates the physical body. And within the subtle body are these chakras or energy wheels, and what they do is they draw in universal energy. And when I'll just give a brief overview, when we're in a surrendered state and we know who we are and we're living through oneness through the present moment, the chakras draw in, there's no bottlenecking of energy, and you're experiencing, for example, in the root chakra, when you're connected to that, you're really grounded in the present moment, you're connected to Mother Earth, but it's actually that groundedness that allows you to ascend in consciousness. You become you do become fearless. So the root chakra is what helps us have stability, gives us that strength to navigate life's challenges. Moving up the chakras, so that's the root chakra, we now have the sacral chakra, and that's for our playfulness. That represents our playfulness, our sensuality. It allows us, when it's operating fully, not to take life too seriously. So that's the sacral chakra. Again, playfulness, and then moving up to the solar plexus chakra. This one, I really need to emphasize something with it. So that's basically our will expressed. But if we take it a step further and we're connected to the highest self and we have no more inner conflict, our will becomes one with the highest self or source or gods. And in that sense, you're directed, you have the clarity, to really make things happen in your life, to also be able to transmute negativity. So that's a really, really important one, especially because in this reality, we're bombarded with negativity when the mind is unguarded. And then moving up from that one, we have the heart chakra, and the heart chakra represents unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness, and being able to really connect with the heart chakra. You not only do you really become empathic, but you also free yourself of the past or any former trespasses. And then moving upwards now to the throat chakra, that allows for, when we're connected to it, authentic expression, and we're able to express ourselves authentically without fear of judgment. And then going upwards now to the third eye chakra, that's the commanding center. That's the seat of clarity, wisdom, and understanding. And it's what connects us to universal consciousness or the unified field. When that is activated, when that third eye is activated, it will actually raise your vibrational frequency to the point where the ego, the negative thinker, is cast out, and what's left is that pure consciousness or stillness. But the gift that comes with this is that you're still able then, moving forward, to experience the thinking mind, but now it becomes a reminder to awaken and reawaken, rather than being a source of one's suffering, because the ego in and of itself is attachment, it is fear, and it is suffering. Moving up from there, we have the crown chakra, and that's what represents universal consciousness, oneness. You experience oneness, and what that means is you recognize the one life that is, or source within you, stillness, through stillness, and that is expressed outwardly. So you're not seeing separation, you're seeing everything as one. People often talk of, or we hear of new earth. New earth is just being able to see oneself clearly and then see the outer world for the spiritual nature that it truly is through that oneness.
Now, I've been working with my chakras for quite a while, but how do chakras influence our everyday thoughts, emotions, decisions, or do they?
That's a great question. For the most part, until we are very conscious of the thinking mind, it's actually the ego, the thinking mind, that is running the show. And when we identify with the negative thinking, that's when we bottleneck universal energy, and then we end up having negative impacts on our chakras. We inhibit them in that sense. So the chakras really come online, and t- to really be clear, they have a consciousness of their own, just as we have a consciousness of our own, and we're expressing ourself through source energy. Our chakras are dying to express themselves through us, but we need to get out of the way, and it takes surrender, mindfulness, awareness, uh, practicing non-attachment, to allow the chakras to express themselves as like strength, inner strength, clarity, wisdom. So until one begins to practice mindfulness and bring attention to the thinking mind, practices like letting things go, then we can allow the chakras to really assist us in our daily life.
Now, for someone who's just starting to work with chakras or they're interested in it, what's the simplest way to start working with your chakras?
Probably the easiest thing to do, and the most empowering, is to, number one, become aware of what each one represents, and then cultivate, embody those characteristics. Um, as a generalization, one, a practice that would really assist one in aligning with the root chakra, because if you can lay a foundation with the root chakra, you can then build from that, and build, on solid ground. So that takes a keen awareness and a practice of living moment by moment in the present moment. But I need to expand on that just a little bit.
Mhm.
So understanding that the present moment is all there really ever is, that takes some reflection and self examination. But as human beings, we've been conditioned, all of us, to bounce between the past and the future, and that's what kept me stuck for many, many years. And that's the ego. That's the one basic play it has, and that's to keep us stuck and keep our vibration down. So, becoming aware of that, and then contemplating and recognizing that this moment is all there ever is, by a briefly reflecting that the past always arrived in the now, and it can only be experienced when we think of the past, or the ego thinks of the past for us. The future never arrives. It's always either an expectation, or it comes as fear, projection, and that will also only arrive in the now moment, or the present. So, cultivating an awareness of how the ego operates, and that the present moment is all there is, will help anchor one, the more you reflect on it, that the present moment is, into the root chakra, into the now moment. And then from there, you can begin to, choosing positive affirmations, begin identifying and aligning with the energies that are expressed when those chakras are able to operate fully.
Now, something that I was taught very, very early, this was when I first started becoming a medium, is clearing your chakras. Is that a practice that should be done regularly?
It's something that can be done regularly, and actually without much time. Doing like a 15-20 second body scan, even seeing where you feel it, understanding where you feel some tightness, or looking at your emotions. Even, are you harboring any resentment towards someone, for example? Well, that's a heart chakra issue. Most likely, perhaps there's someone that needs to be forgiven or released. The important thing about forgiveness, one has to truly understand the value because it's more than just a word, it's a force. Because when we truly forgive someone, let it go, um, and practice letting go, because the ego never wants to let anything go. It wants to remind us and keep us stuck. So, but the more you dissolve it by negating it, by observing and choosing to forgive, and the more it will lose its grip on your consciousness. So, doing a body scan, beginning being preemptive. I mention this often, even in this book, being preemptive. So yeah, if you find that you're feeling stuck somewhere, is it anxiety? Are you worried about the future, for example? Ground yourself into the root chakra, into the present moment. So it becomes a practice, but it does become quite automatic, just like anything else, like even lifting weights. The more stronger you get, things become more automatic. And because you've built so much positive momentum, that's the key.
Yeah. Um, Something that I've always struggled with, even more so in the past several years, is trying to meditate and get into that deep meditative state. But are there any big mistakes people make when trying meditation or energy work for the first time?
I love this question. The first thing I'll say is meditation does not have to be so difficult or arduous. A lot of times we build things up. I give a few examples. For example, let's say you're washing dishes. Just be in the moment, be present, and just realize you're just in that moment washing dishes. That's a meditation. Or if you're reading a book, just be in the moment, and be one in that space reading the book. That's a great thing to do. Another little sort of trick is to plants are masters of stillness, or you could say meditation. So even spending 5 or 10 minutes in a quiet space, get comfortable, and just put your attention and focus on the plant and on the nothingness surrounding the plant, can potentially have that nothingness reflected back at you as stillness. So, again, it's what we bring our attention and awareness to, but really just becoming aware that the present moment is all there ever is, allows you one to operate sort of through wakeful meditation. You sort of take a breath in, you let that go. There's a little mini ego death, and then you're in the moment again, and there's another moment. So again, it takes practice. It's different, or a total reversal, I'll say, to what we've been conditioned as human beings.
Now we live in an age where social media, I mean, having information at the touch of a finger, has kind of hindered people's ability to concentrate and whatnot. Do you think that has really damaged a lot of people's ways of being able to meditate?
That's a great question. It's interesting. I actually sort of put a flip on things like this. We can look at things as negative or positive. So anything that is sort of preventing us from connecting could, connecting to our deeper self, or connecting to meditation as a practice, could potentially actually be a catalyst for a shift and a quantum leap, actually. So because what happens is, we do reach a point as human beings, when we're totally identified as human, we have our limits. And when we say, when we finally reached and have had our fill, where we let something go, because social media, like anything else, can be quite addictive. So it's having an awareness, approaching it consciously, and observing also, because a lot of information out there, it's like the news, a lot of it's negative. So it's about observing, but not actually necessarily absorbing what you're listening to or reading.
Okay. Um, Now for everybody who's listening, can you walk us through like a quick exercise listeners can try right now?
Oh, absolutely, like a meditation.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. I can put us through a guided one. It'll take about 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
I would say less is more. So we're just gonna. Um, I'll just start. We're just gonna close our eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just drop our shoulders, and just take another deep breath. And I just want you to bring your awareness to the here and now, to this moment. Just follow my voice. Just take a deep breath and just drop your shoulders again. Just come into a more relaxed state. And I just want you to reflect on the concept of the present moment, this moment. And I just want you to reflect that the present moment is the key to connecting to the highest self. Deep breath. Just drop your shoulders again. And just bring your awareness to the thinking mind. If there are thoughts, just observe. If there are no thoughts, that's fine as well. Deep breath. If you're experiencing thought, just try to bring your awareness to the space between the thoughts. And that's where you'll find stillness. Deep breath. And if it resonates with you, just repeat in your mind, or it can express the present moment is all there ever is. I am anchored in the present moment. My strength is in the present moment. Deep breath. I am renewed here and now. And just take a deep breath. One more deep breath. Just open your eyes, come back to the now. Short meditations like that are really good at just shifting your attention, your energy, and your frequency.
Yeah, I think in a society now, less is more, as you said, but also too, if you kind of overdo it, uh, it can kind of lose its sensation too, I think. So,
Yeah. You're not trying, you're just sort of allowing.
yeah. Um, Now, there's a lot of skepticism around chakras, even around meditation, especially
Mm.
spiritual meditation. What do people get wrong most often about it?
Probably trying to make things happen and not really understanding the power and the transformative power of surrender, what surrender really is, and the practice of letting go and non-attachment. So um, we hear of the word awakening, and awakening is not just a one-time event. It's a moment by moment process. So there's also been a lot of talk recently, even about ego death. And ego death is simply anytime you forgive someone, let something go, practice living in the moment, and letting that moment die. There's a mini ego death. So that is the path to mastery. For example, is living moment by moment. So you're not trying to achieve anything. You're basically embodying the highest self, and that the key again is through that present moment awareness. So it's a surrendered state, but it's that surrendered state of letting go, letting things go, where the highest self can guide and direct you. I often say wisdom is a one-way street from the highest self to the local or conscious mind.
Now we've talked about raising your vibration. Is raising your vibration something anyone can do, or does it have to like be a type of mindset?
That's a great question, but the interesting thing is we experience this often even throughout the day whenever, let's say, something good happens, when we're happy temporarily, or we something that we've been wanting to manifest, for example, or achieve, or even a job, you experience that temporary happiness. So we experience these moments all the time. The key though is if the desire is there, to come into a state of where you're not only able to experience those, but you're not attached to the fleetingness of the happiness. So the um, a high vibrational state, or operating through a high vibrational state, you're simply anchored and present. But you're also able to, when you understand the power of the mind, um, you realize, number one, circumstances don't matter, and the other thing is that when you know who you are beyond the thinking mind, you understand that what you desire for your life is what source or God desires for you. So when you say I am happy, you experience happy in that moment, or I am joy, you experience joy in that moment, and it's not attached to anything. So that's the happiness, or the joy, or the energies. They're not attached because they emanate from spirit. Spirit's not attached.
Okay. Now we've all got stuff, is what we'll call it.
Mm.
And a lot of times it's really hard to get over, unresolved emotions, or trauma. But how does that affect chakra balance?
That's a great question. So depending on what trauma or what uh, negative emotion we're dealing with, so if it's anger or frustration, that will impact, depending if it's based because of a relationship, let's say that's gone sour, that'll impact the heart chakra. But what also happens, see, it has a cascading effect. Whether we're talking about positive or negative energy, there's always that sponsoring thought, positive or negative. So if it's a past hurt, let's say from a relationship, but then that can, when left unchecked, can spill into men treat everyone like this, or women are like that type of thing. So it branches out. Next thing you know, the energy is now speaking through you. I describe the ego essentially as a possessive entity, and given the chance, fed with our life force, it will actually just grow and branch out, because that's what fear does, anyways. So whether we're talking about positive or negative energy, uh, one needs to realize the impact that negativity has. So it would be prudent to, if you're experiencing negativity like that, to begin a way of addressing it. The thing is, as human beings, we absorb these negative energies, and we don't even come to the point where it's become sort of like ordinary, like daily life, and you don't realize something's really wrong until we start getting some really, really big wake up calls. So it's important to be proactive.
Now, can chakra work actually influence physical health as well as mental and spiritual health as well?
Ooh, absolutely, because the mind body connection. So there is no separation whatsoever. So if you're doing like third eye work, and cultivating being fearless, cultivating what happens, I'll give an example. So if someone's given a diagnosis, even if it's not a serious one, what happens is it can create fear, and fear of the body. And that actually can create a lot more problems. Whenever we see someone, let's say, for example, unhappy, we will say, what's the matter? That's That's basically, we take these negative thoughts, we take this negative energy, and when we focus and create more fear surrounding it, that energy can coalesce and then turn into um, a manifestation or some sort of unwanted diagnosis in that sense, because mind body, there is no separation. So cultivating an awareness, a mindfulness, realizing that the physical body is a miraculous instrument, and given the chance through cultivating mindfulness, awareness, can bring profound results, especially through the surrendered state.
Mm. Now, I feel anybody that does this type of work for themselves, meditation, chakra work, um, we all go through transformations. We even go through transformations if we're not doing that. What's one transformation you've seen in yourself or even others that really has stuck out with you doing this work?
Sure. So shortly after my third eye activation, I went on to experience many mystical events, and one was actual spontaneous healing. So I was at my sister's house. It was the weekend. I was spending a few weeks there as I was waiting for a house to be built, and I suddenly had a vision of a brick wall with the word ego spray painted on it, and I watched this crumble before my eyes, and then I was hit with an image of a wheelchair bound version of me being healed by a healthy me. And in that moment, I realized, since I healed my mind and my soul, I healed my body. And in that moment, I remember experiencing, and this was all happening sort of spontaneously. I was observing it happening, but that was through practicing stillness, practicing mindfulness. The energy, my soul, and that was actually the day where I made conscious contact with my soul. It bounced up and down. The energy, it was so profound. The tears that rolled down my face burnt my cheeks for 3 days, but I understood that I had had a spontaneous healing, and that was after going through a very serious health scare. So I didn't think I was healed. I knew I was healed. And so that's just an example of what's possible when we operate through awareness and surrendered state.
Now, is that kind of part of it is not thinking, but knowing?
Oh, that's a huge part of it. Belief is good, especially, let's say, if someone's practicing manifesting things in their life, but knowing really, really shifts us. There's no doubt in that sense. The key, so as you know, or you're intending something, is to let go of how and when it will manifest, because by doing that, you actually allow the spontaneity of the soul to now express itself. When you're operating through soul awareness or universal consciousness, all bets are off. All things become possible. I almost can't put it into words, but spontaneous healing, having insights. Even before my shift in consciousness, I was having like psychic events that
Mm.
there's no way I could have known these things, that have helped me tremendously resolve some issues. So yeah.
Now, have you ever had somebody tell you, all of this is a load of bunk. You can't be doing this. You can't be seeing things that aren't happening or seeing things that aren't there. You can't heal yourself with energy work. Have you ever come across that, and how'd you handle it?
I would say probably at the very early beginnings of maybe my writing career, and I give it no energy. Everyone, we're in a world of relativity, so everyone's operating at a different level of awareness. That's more than okay. It's more than perfect.
Right.
So you just got to let them. If they want to spin their wheels, let them spin their wheels. But I've been living now 20 years consciously with an inner peace that I can't put into words, strength, clarity, wisdom. When I write the books, it's not, the high self is writing through me. So where is with this information coming from? It's contrary to what we've been conditioned to experience. So it's a life demonstrated. I would say that speaks for itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what does your personal daily practice look like when it comes to the chakra work, meditation, even just spiritual work?
Sure. So I begin the day with gratitude. Basically, I set some intentions. I affirm things. I will, depending on what it is I want to manifest or share, let's say next. Um, I set intentions, embodying it, seeing it, not from a space of separation, but from the accomplished desire or the desire fulfilled. It's interesting with the manifestation process, or let's say with the law of attraction, people get stumped because a lot of times there's that trap. Number one of waiting. I'm waiting for it to manifest. That'll just keep you waiting, and also manifesting from when you're not fulfilled already. So there's a big difference when you're already coming from a space of fulfillment. Again, it's that awareness of the soul, or soul awareness, or stillness, and trusting that a way has been made even when one is you don't see one. That's where again all things become possible. Um, the key is being present, living in the moment. I think that's probably the biggest challenge as human beings, because we're so the ego is very enticing as well, very alluring. It's that energy, back and forth. So oftentimes, like I said, so the future can have some excitement when we're embodying that. But there's also a lot of times uncertainty, fear, and anxiety. In the past, sometimes better times, as well as anger, negativity. So I understand that. So it's just having an awareness. The ego now no longer is the dominating force. It's been, I'll be clear, it's been cast out, and now is just a reminder to awaken and reawaken. So um, basically, one understands, and this is probably key, when you're uh, have an understanding of who you are relative to source. You realize what you desire for your life is what source desires for you. The word desire, sort of, when translated, means from the Father. So we get these inspirations, potentials, and the key is, who is following that. Um, one sort of trick or key to success, whatever word it is we're talking about, is if you're following what you're passionate about, because there's a reason that passion is there.
No, I've followed the law of attraction for a very long time. But when you say you wake up with gratitude, is it something just as simple as I'm grateful for waking up today?
It's along the lines, I'm grateful for who I am in source. I'm grateful that that which I desire is coming to fruition. Again, when I say that, there's no doubt in it. There is a non-attachment to it. So you're letting go of how and when. So it's basically just gratitude for knowing who one is. It's sort of all encompassing, because in knowing who I am, there's no fear, there's no worry. And you're embodying things like inner strength. So there's a lot of sort of knowing that comes with it. So it's basically just giving thanks for knowing who you're one with.
Well, and I'm glad you bring that up, because I think a lot of us, when it comes to this type of stuff, we're always worried about the when and where, instead of just being in the moment and realizing that it's there. We're gonna have it. We do have it, and just letting time, as relative as that is, because humans just concentrate on time instead of
Yeah.
realizing that it is a lot. It's not linear like we think.
No.
So
No. Every potential is already, everything's creation is finished. If we can look at it as a video game, so every outcome is already there. Now, depending if you go left or right, depending on your focus. So the key is choosing what it is you desire to experience, and being consistent in that. So when I say consistent, is embodying it. It doesn't mean you embody it 24/7 in that sense, but you spend some time throughout the day seeing it, envisioning it. But throughout the day, you're just essentially operating through non-resistance, because it's resistance and focusing on circumstances, which circumstances are neutral. They only become negative when we look at something and we react. I don't want to be here, or why is this not happening yet, we bottleneck and we allow now our own energy to sort of tie the universe's hands from allowing that which we desire. So we keep learning the lessons, and we've all experienced this. I went through it until you let go. And when I say surrender, that is dealing when you do experience inner conflict or resistance, to observe it rather than identify with it. What you identify with is what you become, and what you become is what is expressed and experienced in the moment energetically, but then also it manifests your destiny. Moment by moment, we are manifesting our destiny.
Okay. And I appreciate you talking about this because I too kind of still fall into this um negative thought process. And it we're humans. We
Yeah.
will do this, but I feel I needed to hear this today because it is one of those things where I tend to do it more often than I should, especially being a medium. Um, and I feel that I attract other people's negativity onto me as well as just negative outcomes as well. So I appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Everything I always say, everything arrives when it's ready to sort of be resonated with. So that's yeah. But because we're one, I'll just even touch upon what you said. Because we're one with everything and everyone, we are. And I could actually demonstrate that in like 30 seconds. Let's say you're hammering in a nail on a wall, and you miss the nail and you smash your thumb, and you start cursing the hammer. Well, who feels the anger? You do, because
Yeah.
you and that hammer are one. You can't extend kindness to another person, even across the world, or anger, project anger without you instantly experiencing it, because we're all one. So, um, going back to whether we're embodying a higher state or a lower state, we do call in whatever it is we are embodying. So, what happens is when you, though, make that shift and you're embodying more of your true self, even when you do experience those negative people or negative energies, they actually don't impact. It's the opposite now. You're so vibrating so high, you're impacting your environment, and you're able to see them through stillness and actually with compassion rather than allowing them to sort of pull us into their stuff. Yeah. It's very empowering.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, we kind of talked about this before we got on air. But do you believe energy work connects to paranormal experiences or heightened perceptions?
That's a great question. I was experiencing the paranormal as far back as I can remember. Uh, uh, I should mention this. I remember being even as far back as 7 or 8 years old, working at my dad's hardware store, sitting on the front stoop, having a silent mind, but not being fully aware of that silence. So it was always quiet, but it's through that quietness that we're able to pick up on energies, uh, information like clairvoyance. I've got some doozies of examples. I can share one if you want on a uh, sort of a call it a third eye event if you like.
Mhm.
I was away at school. I started first year of school. I went to school in the States, and my girlfriend back then, high school, went to grade 13 here in Canada. So she used to walk to school. And on this particular day, a guy came up to her and tried talking to her. Next thing you know, he's chasing her to the school. So she's terrified, calls me and says, what happened? So I actually start coming home from Cincinnati every weekend, and my goal is to find this guy. The harassment was getting so bad. They had Bell and the police involved to sort of see where the phone calls were coming from.
Mm.
So she calls me this one day about 2 weeks in, and I was coming home every weekend trying to find him. And she says, Bell and the police have tracked the phone number and we have an intersection. I said, great. I said, you're going to tell me. And she goes, no, I'm not. Because she knows, I studied in the martial arts, and I would have had a little talk with him. And I said, great. So tell me. And she refused. I said, you're going to tell me. And by the time I reached the third, you're going to tell me, I said it with such an intensity, a shot of energy went down my spine straight up. And about maybe 5 or 6 feet, it appeared as a vision. And I screamed out, Barton and Lottridge, I'm coming home. I know where the calls are coming from. So, needless to say, I found him that weekend, and we had a talk, and he never bothered her again.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But now with that story, have you ever had an experience that made you question reality?
Ooh, that's a good one. What I should say is after my shift in consciousness, I realized that the two worlds are one. That the physical world is really is this. We'll say this: the spiritual world is encompassing this world. Um, I've had experiences with shadow people. I've seen a specter look through a neighbor's window, and I've had countless. I mentioned to you, I've had thousands of UFO sightings, and I've posted virtually most of them on social media. So for example, with the UFOs, they've reminded me. They're here to remind us of our potential. So one way like I said, I've had so many experiences. I remember once even taking a picture of the sky. It was an interesting upside down. It was like a V-shaped cloud, but the cloud was casting a shadow, and that immediately gave me an image of like you think of snow globes.
Mm.
So if I were to take like a magic zipper and I can unzip the sky, what I could reveal would astound us all. There's thousands of ships there, thousands.
Now, that's the one thing that fascinates me about talking to a lot of people that have opened themselves up to the paranormal, to mediumship, energy work, stuff like that. And I talked to you about this before we got on air about my experiences. Um, do you feel in today's day and age, especially right now in this time, do you think we're very close to them, meaning UFOs, extraterrestrials, whatever they are, revealing themselves or at least helping us understand that there is much more to this universe than we realize?
In my Shortly after the sighting started, I began to channel the phenomena, and it became my work, Cosmic Contact, my book, Cosmic Contact, and they've made it clear to me a couple of things. They're not going to be another distraction, and they're not our saviors. And what I mean by that, and I should clarify this because I actually spoke to this with Michelle on a podcast with her,
Okay.
because it sounds like, oh, they're just going to let Earth go to hell in a handbasket. The
Yeah.
thing is this: they already see us as enlightened beings. We need to now wake up the masses,
We need to
realize
understand it
we
ourselves.
need to understand. They see the potential within us. They're just here to remind us. But there is coming a time uh, where there will be mass sightings taking place, and I can't help but feel it's sooner rather than later. It My initial experiences with them, I'm gonna say gentle and yet no, baptism by fire, because it was that first week where I recorded my first two objects, and shortly after, the triangle appeared as a very black 3D triangle called Neighbors Over. They saw it, but the phenomena is so advanced, they've had to demonstrate what they can do in different encounters. So it's going to happen, and disclosure, even from a sense, is going to happen really through ordinary citizens, people who are experiencing these things. But the greatest disclosure again is just work, doing some self work, becoming more heart centered. And then if you have that desire to reconnect with Star Family, from one point of view, these are parallel slash future versions of ourselves.
Mm.
When you see it through oneness. So it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, I think, sooner rather than later, but, they've always been here. Some of them have, come as, we've experienced them as, like, guides, so, or let's say, like, our highest self, so we've always been sort of guided. It's now we're coming I should mention this, we're coming to the end of the separation experiment. And what I mean by that is separation from each other, from source or God, and from the rest of creation. So that's why this is now happening. So the best thing to one can do right now is we're going through, and there appears to be like even I think a lot of us have noticed there's more chaos in the outer world. that's a reminder to come back inward, anchor into the present, observe the outer, and remember the power of the mind. Set your intentions for what you want to see. So, new earth, like when I awoke, when I had my awakening in 2005, I realized new earth is not a future event. It's here and now, it's a parallel dimension. And when you occupy or have the awareness of inner stillness, you embody, you're now experiencing new earth, oneness with source and with everyone, and with them. So yeah, it's inevitable and a mass sighting, but they're just waiting for more people to come more heart centered. And but we're hitting a critical mass. We're pretty close.
Mm. So you feel that us I if they reveal themselves to us, do you think it'll bring Earth closer as a people, like everybody coming together?
Oh, it's going to be there's going to be massive shifts, all positive. We're humanity is already we're already one. We're already one with everything and everyone. Now it's people shifting out of separation. So anytime we operate through separation, we experience fear primarily. Nothing wrong with it, but that's what it is. It just is what it is. When we shift into oneness, now we're operating through the unified field. We recognize, if judgment does occur, we observe it, we let it go. But like I said, they're waiting for more and more people to just become more heart centered in that sense. Um, but yeah, they've made it so clear, like we're not going to be a distraction. They don't want people, like, another thing, to sort of worship. They want they want us to realize source within. I'll put it this way, we talked about earlier the law of attraction. The big elephant in the room is awakening to source. When we awaken to source within through inner stillness, it's like everything else that manifests, because now we're not resistant. It's like icing on the cake, but nothing. I've experienced material success before and after the shift. None of it compares to living through source, through oneness, through stillness. So that's the elephant in the room. I think that just needs to need to sort of wake up to. It's nothing. Nothing has to be added to us. It's just awakening to it. So we have that desire to reconnect. So this is what this is. It's just a temporary experience of pretending we separated from everything, and now it's that return.
Now, tying this into the book, do you feel that if people take this stuff seriously, chakra work, meditation, that is just one step closer to that?
Absolutely. Even just practicing forgiveness and becoming keenly aware. This is the one of the present moment. Really examine that, reflect on that, examine how the ego operates. So between past and future, it's all about self awareness. It's not about becoming better than anyone. It's about becoming who you are beyond the thinking mind, the authentic self, the one that embodies like strength, wisdom, clarity, peace, compassion. So you're equipped more, because there's always going to be challenges. I say people are like, well, does that mean everything? You know, there will be challenges, but what happens is now they're not even seen as that, because you're flowing. You know that a way has been made. So you're just moving with the flow of life, and so there's a sacral chakra, for example. You're in that flow. So doing the work, it's amazing how a little bit of, I should mention this, willingness to be guided, willingness to cultivate and practice, uh, can quantum leap one. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if there's anything our listeners take from this, what should it be?
That's a great question. It should be that there's a lot more to us than our physical self and the thinking mind. There's a spiritual heavy hitter that is dying to express itself through us. It's the soul, and it's experienced as inner stillness. And the key is to reconnect with it is, one, becoming aware of the present moment and really becoming one with it, and recognizing that the present moment is our ally. It's the doorway, not only for the ascension process, but to embodying who we are, and tapping into those faculties like wisdom, discernment, strength, clarity, focus.
Excellent. All right. Well, it is about that time to let you go. So I wanted to give you the chance to tell everybody where they can find you, find your work. The mic's all yours.
Oh, thank you. So basically, it's my name, Jiulio Consiglio. You can find me in TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think Blue Sky I added not too long ago. YouTube. I not only uh, share my insights from my teachings, but also a lot of my encounters with the phenomena. There's a massive consciousness aspect to them, and there's no separation between it. I've realized keenly. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Jiulio, thank you so much for being on ParaTruth Reborn. It's been an amazing interview, amazing experience. And I'm looking forward to talking to you as more books come out for you.
Sure, thank you so much, Justin.
All right, folks, make sure you check out Your Highest Vibration, realize your full potential through chakra work and meditation. It's been an honor and a privilege to talk to Jiulio today, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. If you really want to experience ParaTruth Reborn, make sure you're following us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. If you Google ParaTruth Reborn, you'll find us. Also get into our Paratruthers community on Facebook. It's the best way for us to connect with our listeners and get your questions and answers to a lot of these questions. And if you bring those questions to that group, we will absolutely get them in our conversations with our guests. Until next week, where you'll find us same time, same channel. My name is Justin. Talk to you guys later.